I'm here with my next episode of Sunday Stories. Yes, I have come after a long time, but as the schedule has got a little tight, I'm sorry for the inconvenience that I caused to you all. Today's story, a very interesting one. It is actually a story written by O. Henry. If you remember, we have read many stories. If you remember the names of those stories written by O. Henry, put it in the comment section. Let's see how many of you remember. Today's story is Cop and the Anthem. Let us see what happens here. Very interesting story about a homeless vagabond, a person who is homeless, does not have a permanent shelter to stay in. And this story is about such a man named Soapy. So Soapy is sitting in a park and he's thinking about the world and about his life, all the other things. He's looking around, people walking, talking, everything. And then suddenly a dry leaf falls on him. As the leaf falls, he picks up the leaf, and what does that leaf signify? That it has dried and the fall season has begun, and the fall season means the autumn season. And the starting of the autumn season actually tells us about the approaching winters. He starts thinking about the cold nights which used to trouble him a lot. He was a vagabond. He did not have a place to live in. He thinks about where he would spend his winters. So he's in thoughts, what to do, where to go, what to do about his lodgings. He gets up from there, he starts walking, and he crosses the Blackwell's Island. Blackwell's Island is a prison over there. So he crosses that, and then he thinks of the life in prison. And he has always spent many winters in these prisons. So he thinks about the lives that were there in the prison when he was there, and feels that it was best to live in these prisons during these cold winters. It used to be very cold, it used to snow, there were hailstorms, it was very difficult to stay somewhere outside. Summers, he had slept on the benches in the park. He had slept on the place that is just below the clock tower. So there were many places, in summers you can sleep here and there anywhere for the vagabonds. But what about the winters? How would he shelter himself from the cold winds? So he thinks about the Blackwell's Island, where he had spent many winters, and thinks of how to get into the prison. For getting into the prison, you need to have done some crime. So he starts thinking about what crime to commit so that he is jailed, so that he is imprisoned. He keeps walking, and then he crosses a very big restaurant. He thinks of going inside, dining over there, and then feels, the best thing was not to pay the bill, and then probably, the restaurant owners would would call the cops, the policemen, and put him into the jail. So he goes in with this idea, but at the entrance, the guard doesn't let him in. The guard feels that the person is not wearing proper clothes. Vagabonds are homeless people. His clothes were, almost similar to those shabby rags. So he feels the guard feels that this place was an expensive place and it was not correct for this person to go in. So he is stopped at that restaurant. Soapy feels very, very disheartened. Anyways, he starts walking and then he reaches a small, a nice comfortable place, nice little restaurant where he could be allowed in. And no one stops him there. He goes inside, starts eating food, has his fill. He orders many things. Although the waiters over there were suspicious about the amount of things that he was ordering. But he orders many things. He eats very nicely to his fill, satisfied. And then when the waiter comes and asks for the bill, he says he didn't have any money. And he was expecting the waiter to complain to the owner of the restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant would call the police, would ring up and call the police, and he would be sent to jail. But nothing of the sort happened. In fact, the waiter feels pity on him. And the way he had eaten so many things, the waiter sympathizes and himself takes out the amount of money that had to be given and pays to the counter. This was something really shocking for Soapy. And then the waiter tells him to leave the place immediately, and he says, your bill has been paid, but don't do this next time. I am paying your bill. I was sympathetic towards you, but others may not. Again, Soapy is very disheartened. He wanted to be imprisoned. He was committing these crimes because he wanted to be safe in the prison. In the prison, you had shelter, a place to live in. You would get free food, whatever it was, Already he was a homeless person. There were nights when he had slept without eating food. At least you would get food over there. You would be protected from the cold winds. That is what Soapy wanted. So he was committing these crimes. Disheartened again, he moves forward and then he reaches a big showroom that had, those glass windows. He picks up stones and plans to break the glass and be caught by the cop. It was a big showroom. The owners would definitely call the police and would get him imprisoned. So he picks up stones and starts peltering stones on the glass doors. The glass breaks. The owner, sees that someone is doing so, and the owner is not able to see anyone, just sees that the glass doors are broken and quickly goes to the telephone and calls the cop. Soapy was observing everything, what the owner would do. Soapy is very satisfied, keeps standing over there, and the cops arrive. And the cops starts, searching for the man who would have broken that glass. Soapy is there with a big grin on his face and feeling very proud and says, I am the person who's broken the glass. Arrest me. I'm the one who did this. So the owner looks at Soapy and feels confused. Because if someone commits a crime, the person runs away, does not stay there to be arrested. So the cop says, oh, this is a mad fellow, getting himself arrested for no reason. He didn't run away, and starts, the cops see a man running and they start following that man. Soapy standing there tells them to put the handcuffs, tells them that he is the person who has broken the glass on purpose and they should arrest him. But they did not believe in Soapy, and in fact they starts running behind a person who they found running, and that person was actually running behind a bus. He was missing the bus and he wanted to catch the bus. The cops start running behind that man, and Soapy is again left disheartened, and Soapy is confused. Now what should I do? Anyways, Soapy moves again from there, and then he crosses a school. There were classes going on in the lawn, and the teachers were singing and teaching the children. The children were reciting everything in unison, and everything was going on very nicely when Soapy starts thinking about doing something over there. So he starts shouting over there. Soapy, starts shouting and starts using abusive words, so that those school teachers see what this young man is doing outside and using abusive words, and that is contradictory, and that person was committing some crime, and they would get him arrested. So he starts using all type of dirty language and abusive words and starts shouting like a crazy man, a crazy boy. The teacher stops teaching. The teacher looks out, who was using such words. The children turned round to see, oh God, such bad words and dirty language, abusive language that boy was using. But the teacher stands up and the teacher tells very politely to the children that by looking at that crazy boy, he must be some college crazy boy who was frustrated. And we should pity such boys. And we get to learn that we should not use this type of language in front of anyone. So teachers take him as an example to teach their children something, and again he fails. The teacher stands up, collects her children, takes them inside. He's again left alone. In fact, all the children felt pity at this boy because they felt he was frustrated, he was unhappy about something, and so he was using such language. But yes, such language should not be spoken. Oh God, Soapy was so fed up. All his plans were failing. Again, he moves forward and he enters a small little garden and then looks at that house. People inside were singing an anthem. What is an anthem? A song which gives you peace. A song which tells you to rise. A song which tells you to improve, to transform, to do something good. So he moves there and he remembers that in childhood times he used to stay in that house, and right now it was owned by somebody else. He looks up at the house, and by now, it has started getting dark. It is dusk time, and the sun is setting and it's becoming dark, and he stands there and he looks up at the window and he is able to hear that anthem. He feels so peaceful. He feels guilty. He should transform himself. Why was he a vagabond? Why was he homeless? Why isn't he doing something to earn a living? He feels bad. He feels guilty. And at that moment only he prays to God and feels, and he makes it his resolution that he would change himself, he would transform himself. He should be a person. He was healthy. He could work. The whole day he used to move around here and there doing nothing. And right now he was so wrong, thinking about committing a crime so that he could go to jail to spend his winters. Was this something good? He feels so bad for having thought all that. He remembers his mother, he remembers the house, and the anthem that was being sung really brings about a change in his heart. And he plans that he would transform himself. He would bring a change in himself. He would work, start a new life, earn a living so that he has a shelter to live in, which he could call his own. And just thinking about it, he was looking at the window when suddenly he's caught by a hard hand. He gets frightened, he's scared, and he turns around and he sees a cop standing over there, a policeman. The policeman suspects him. They feel, why was he looking into that house? Was he at this time, when it is getting dark, planning to enter that house through that window and steal and commit a crime? Was he a burglar? The cop suspects him, put handcuffs on his wrist. He turns around and he says, no, I have not done anything and I was not planning. But no one listens to him. He's put into the police van, taken to Blackwell's Island. He's arrested and then imprisoned because the police suspected him of doing something. How did you like the irony of this story? Thrice, 4 times, 5 times he committed crimes so that he was arrested. He could be arrested and he could be sent to prison, to the Blackwell's Island, so that he would be able to live comfortably in the winters. But now, when listening to the anthem, there came about a change in his heart. He wanted to transform himself into a good person, to start a new life. He was suspected and he was put into the jail. This was an ironical story by O. Henry. Think about it. Has anyone ever faced such a situation? How many books have you read of O. Henry? Do you know their endings? One story that you all remember recently that we had done was Ransom of the Red Chief. Ransom and the Red Chief. If you remember, it had the same type of an ending, similar ending. Do let me know more stories and how you like this one. Please, please, please put comments. I love reading your comments. Thank you for those who always comment, give their own suggestions, give their own viewpoints. It really makes my thinking cap work even faster. You give a new dimension, and every person has got an own viewpoint and it gives a new dimension. I appreciate that. Bye. Meet you next Sunday with another Sunday story. Till then, take care.